Welcome to i3's Tech Channel, where learning is made easy. Today we're looking at the new release of version 7's design and the new set of capabilities in a web interface environment. Version 7 SRX-Pro setup is now a web interface and different from version 6, a software application. Version 7 is the core software and separate from the AI software. It's designed to be installed on any recommended hardware server from i3. The SRX-Pro version 7 can accept any i3 and Nexus IP camera encoder and most on-VIF IP cameras. Depending on the hardware U1, U2, or U3, the SRX-Pro version 7 can record 16, 48, and 64 IP cameras. It's pretty simple to set up, and with correct ports, users can connect to the SRX-Pro version 7 via the Video Pilot client or any smart devices. There are 4 main areas that this how to set up SRX-Pro version 7 will try to explain: adding IP cameras, listing of IP cameras, setting up of IP cameras, and administrating the server. These main areas will come with the subtopics and will go into details. Firstly, let us show you how to install the SRX-Pro version 7 software on the i3 server. Please sign on to the i3 website. From here, click on the support and then download SRX-Pro version 7. After installing the software, you're going to need to import the purchased IP licenses. If you did not purchase them, please call our customer care department at 1-877-877-7241. After installing the SRX-Pro version 7 software, users will need to set up a username and password. If it's installed, just simply double-click on the icon on your desktop. Or if you're on any web console such as Google Chrome, in this case I'm using an Apple device, so I'm on Safari. Simply type in your local area network connection to the SRX-Pro software as https://127.0.0.1:17220. If it's a WAN, then you'll need to correct the IP address and port number. It's going to ask you to enter your username and password. Most i3 default username and password is i3admin. So before logging into the SRX-Pro software, it's recommended that you should set up all your IP cameras and encoders with the correct username and password. You should refer to the ACT, which is the Nexus configuring tool, on the i3 YouTube channel for further details. Please also set up your NVR to the same IP address as the IP cameras. Once you enter the setup page, the first thing you need to do is add the IP cameras. This can be done by clicking on the Add button on the left corner. It will go out and search for all the IP cameras on the same IP address range as the NVR. There are some i3 and Nexus cameras that have not changed the username and address. You can simply add them on by checking on the box. Otherwise, you're going to need to enter the username and password. There are also some cameras that are not displayed because it might be on the on-VIF cameras. And if the IP addresses are not discovered, then you're going to need to turn on the on-VIF button. You can also manually add the camera if you like. In some cases, it's necessary if the camera is utilizing GIPI, which is Generic IP Interface. Then you need to choose the correct adapter. The adapter includes a variety of other IP camera manufacturers. Select the one that matches your camera's manufacturer, or in the model, select it as on-VIF. There are 2 types of streaming options. In most cases, it's UDP. Check the default settings of the camera manufacturer. Transmission Control Protocol, or TCP, is all about reliability. Packets sent with TCP are tracked so no data is lost or corrupted in transit. This is why file downloads don't become corrupted, even if there are network hiccups. Of course, if the recipient is completely offline, your computer will give up and you'll see an error message saying it can't communicate with the remote host. When an app uses UDP, packets are just sent to the recipient. The sender doesn't wait to make sure the recipient received the packet. It just continues sending the next packets. If the recipient misses a few UDP packets here and there, they are just lost. The sender won't resend them. Losing all this overhead means the devices can't communicate more quickly. UDP is when the speed is desirable and error correction isn't necessary. IP addresses or DNS is required to enter for the SRX-Pro software to connect to the camera. In most cases, the port of the camera is 80, but if you're using a static public IP address of the camera, you need to make sure the port is open. Always make sure that you can enter the camera name. This is important for the remote connection, so you can search for it. For example, you have multiple sites and there are multiple front door cameras. If you search for front door cameras, then you're able to connect to the multiple site cameras that are labeled front door. Please keep in mind that the maximum number of cameras you can connect is 64, or 64 sites at a time, with one camera for each site. The video input is mainly for the encoder. Sometimes your encoder has 16 analog licenses, but physically you can only have 6 analog camera inputs. Then just simply turn on 6. The rest of the 10 inputs should be unchecked. Finally, the last part is the username and password for the cameras. Without the correct credentials, the SRX-Pro cannot connect to the IP cameras or encoders. In the next video, we're going to be covering the listing of IP cameras. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are i3 International, the leading Canadian manufacturer of digital technologies and business intelligence. Thanks for watching.